shot 256 gigabytes. Oh my gosh. I'm not shooting RAW again for a video like this. It makes no sense. Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Brenton. I am a freelance filmmaker and DP, and today I'm sitting on an Apple box. So today I want to talk about RAW video and why it's important and why it's not important all at the same time. So what is RAW video? RAW video is basically the photo site and the sensor data coming off of your sensor. So it's not a codec, or it shouldn't be a codec usually. It's not compressed, or it is sometimes, and it's not something you can physically view on your monitor without it being converted. So I'll give you a couple examples. So raw data coming off of this T3i right here. This only takes raw photos, but it still takes 14-bit RAW. So I remember the first time I started shooting RAW back in 2013 when I got this camera. And the flexibility that I got with RAW was very different than a JPEG. I could actually change my white balance in post, my tint, and I had just so much more fine-tuning controls when it came to sharpness and just general image play. It didn't seem to degrade the image until I, broke the image. So a 14-bit RAW is gonna give you, sorry, I gotta do math, 16,000 shades per color tone. So red, green, and blue. And that's really important when you really want to push an image and play with it. And even, this is an older camera now, and you can still create pretty cool looking images with it. Turning over to a camera like the C300 Mark III here, I'm recording in RAW right now, so it's actually just eaten through the cards. I don't know why I decided to do this. I thought it would be appropriate for the video since it's about RAW. This camera is recording in 12-bit RAW right now. So it's 4,096 shades per color, so red, green, and blue, which gives you, I think it's almost 1 trillion colors. There's a lot. So a lot of people ask me, is RAW just log? And the answer is no. RAW is not log. RAW is the base information coming off of your sensor. And log is actually a translation of the RAW coming off of your sensor, regardless of if your camera shoots RAW. Log is a debayered image that can be viewed on a typical computer monitor, like this guy, and it will have a very flat, very gray look to it because it's taking all of that information, 12, maybe 16-bit RAW if you're on a red, and compressing it into kind of the Rec. 709 container. And that will have, it typically only has about 7 or 8 stops of dynamic range in a Rec. 709 container. But by taking, 16 plus stops of dynamic range, you have to squish it into this Rec. 709 container. And so it will end up looking very flat. RAW is giving you basically the ultimate flexibility to convert it to whatever log you want, and thus converting that into whatever pleasing Rec. 709 style look you want, or for future displays, HDR, which is something I'll probably talk about in another video. So a couple of confusing topics. RAW isn't compressed, but there are many compressed RAWs. So right off the bat, the C300 shoots Canon RAW Lite. This is the Mark III. So Canon RAW Lite is a 3-to-1 compressed RAW from what I understand on Canon's website. So it's 1/3 of the size of uncompressed RAW, which makes it very, very easy to work with compared to uncompressed RAW. So I get about 1 gigabit per second for this RAW codec. And if you're shooting on a red and even higher resolutions, you can shoot up to 2.5 gigabits a second pretty easily in the lower compression ratios. The Arri cameras, the Alexa and Alexa Mini LF, all the Alexa cameras shoot uncompressed RAW. From what I see, the cameras record up to about 6 gigabits a second in the high speed modes. On a camera like mine, it's finding clever ways to take that uncompressed raw data from the sensor and make it smaller before it hits the debayering process. Okay, so one topic that is a little bit confusing is how is RAW different than ProRes 444? I've been told in the past that RAW was a 444 color chroma subsample, but the funny thing is even ProRes 444 is typically extrapolated from a different resolution. So I'll give you an example. On my camera here, it's a 4K sensor, or just a little bit above 4K. The 4K Bayer pattern sensor consists of red, green, and blue photosites, but there are twice as many green photosites as blue and red photosites. So having a red and a green and a blue pixel next to each other helps approximate what the image is going to look like when it is de-Bayered. And before the de-Bayer process, the resolution is much lower. So on my camera, the green photosites actually create a 2K image, and the red photosites and the blue photosites actually create a 1K image. All of that information is then extrapolated in the de-Bayering process to create a 4K image. So really, you're only approximating most of it, or half of the data, when you extrapolate a 4K image from a 4K Bayer pattern sensor. ProRes has to have all of your color channels, whether it's YCC or whether it's RGB. It has to have all of the information de-Bayered already. RAW doesn't have to have your colors de-Bayered yet. So it's actually more efficient because you only have a 2K green, 1K blue, and 1K red in a given 4K image. Okay, so I want to kind of debunk a couple of things that I hear a lot of times on the internet and just YouTube about RAW. And RAW is very flexible. That is the strength of RAW. But RAW is not an excuse to mess up exposure. A lot of people think that you can completely mess up your exposure while shooting RAW and you'll totally be fine. Someone will take an image that's correctly exposed and just crank the ISO on a red and say, look, I've incorrectly exposed this image. But in reality, the camera's still shooting ISO 800 or whatever the RAW data rate is on the camera, and they can just bring it right back down to what they were originally shooting in post. Those things kind of make me upset. The reality is that RAW is more difficult and easier at the same time to expose for. If you underexpose RAW accidentally by, maybe like 3 stops on a bad day, and you pull that image back up, you're actually going to see all the noise from your sensor. So I've seen tests go back and forth. I did a couple tests myself, and you can get a cleaner looking noise with noise reduction, but the time that it's going to take you in post-production to bring that exposure up and actually do proper amounts of noise reduction and resolve, it's gonna eat up a lot of time, and oftentimes your image can end up looking worse. The only time where RAW is easier to expose or get a better image out of is if maybe you mess up your white balance. RAW isn't an excuse not to light your stuff well. I've been in scenarios where I had like a Sony FS7 and I took that off the tripod and put on a red, and I said, wow, I still don't like this image. And it's because of the way it was lit. It was too front lit. And after I reworked the lighting and I added maybe a little bit more backlight, took away some of the fill light, I put the Sony back on the tripod after I liked the image on the red, and I liked the image on the Sony more. Because it's not about RAW, it's about lighting. The YouTube space is weird because you can get really high-end production in here, and you can get just, little mom and pop shops, making a little YouTube channel for their, flower shop or whatever. And they don't need RAW, they need something that's easy to work with. And ultimately, that's what it's about. If you can easily edit the footage that you're working with, that is the right codec or the right computer for you, your image is still going to be limited by your lighting. RAW is just going to be like the little icing on top. Like, it's going to make it look pretty. And all of those things combined can make a great image. So it's all about a balance, I think. I'm gonna wrap up the video here, and don't forget to like the video if you want to see some more content, and subscribe. And if you want to hit the bell notification icon, you can get notifications when I go live or post a video. Make sure to keep shooting and enjoy yourself. Make content that you want to see. if you want to make some YouTube videos. So I'm gonna head out and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.